Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to Tanner's Take. So, this week I wanted to go over a recap of the Seahawks versus the Broncos. Yeah, not very happy. 0-1. I mean, honestly, it's kind of per usual. It seems like the last 4 or 5 years we've started 0-1 or 0-2, which is, I mean, we bounced back from it, but I feel like we should have had this one. I feel like we could have had this one, and I feel like we should have had this one. So, just to get into it, last week I know I talked about how Earl Thomas might be a little rusty, and damn, yeah, he looked good out there. He was flying around making plays. I'm a little surprised actually he was in tune that much in the game. I guess that just shows to shout out to his preparation. I mean that really showed. I mean he was ready to go. Uh, he got what the second defensive possession we had. He got that pick. I mean, yeah, Earl Thomas looks great. Uh, I'm still going to stand by that there's no way in hell we should pay him Eric Berry type money. But supposedly now he's saying that if the Seahawks want me, then I will resign. And again, it's going to come down to the contract. But I think if we can get him for somewhere between 8 to 10 million for the next 3 years, I think that's a good deal. And I think for that price we should do it. But I don't know what the Hawks are thinking, and it kind of seems like they're kind of prepared to move on. And I know that John Snyder's talked about like the third contract giving out to players just has not worked out well. Like we gave a third contract to Richard Sherman, which he got hurt. We gave a third contract to Cam Chancellor, which he got hurt. So third contracts have just kind of been unlucky. I think that's just really the only word to use there. But I think they are skeptical on giving Earl a third contract. And I think if they want to move forward without him, then they need to really consider. I mean, again, we didn't really get to see Tedrick Thompson. He played a couple snaps, but he didn't get any looks really at free safety. But either way, I hope one way or another, I hope we either trade Earl and get the pick, or we keep Earl and pay him, because otherwise we're just gonna have to ride this year out. And unless we make the playoffs, in my opinion, there was no point in keeping Earl this season. So we'll see what happens there. Um, so first offensive play of the game, we decided to. I think we did a play action play, if I remember right. I'm actually not even positive, but I know it was a pass play because we got sacked. I What is the deal? Pete Carroll talks about like just harping on we're getting the run game going. We're gonna get the run game going. We got to get the run game going. And then what happens? They're like pass it. So I think the first offensive possession, like we literally passed 3 plays and it was a 3-and-out. And it's like, come on. Like I understand second and third down, fine. Like, but what's the worst thing that happens on a first down run? I mean, you get tackle for loss for -2 yards. Well, Russell Wilson running a play action sack got first and or whatever. Now it's second and 17 or whatever it was. I mean, geez, I'm just one of the most frustrating thing about the Hawks is that they are always getting themselves in situations with third and longs. Third and longs is like the worst thing in football. Like, do not be in a position where you're third and long. And it's like we always have third and longs as the Hawks. It's really frustrating to me. I can't deal with it. But honestly, Carson looked solid. Penny looked like he was a little nervous. Maybe he looked okay, but I mean he still looked okay, I guess. But Carson looks really good. Carson looked like a workhorse. So I hope we just feed him the ball. I mean, I know that defensive line's tough, and I know the defensive line we're going to play next week's tough also, but still, I think we should hand him the ball and see how it goes. I mean, if he can get 3-4 yards on first down, that's a good start right there. So, offensive line looked okay. Jermaine Ifedi obviously pretty. Yikes! I don't know. The fact that like George Font hasn't taken over the spot yet tells me that obviously Jermaine Ifedi's kind of the best we got. But man, he looks brutal out there. He looks like he's struggling. I mean, it seemed like, and the announcers were saying it too. It seemed like unless he had a tight end or someone to help him block Von Miller, or at least hit him on the way out. I mean, it's like there were only like 2 or 3 snaps the whole freaking game where Jermaine Ifedi was by himself, and like what did Von Miller have, 3 sacks? Like that's just unacceptable. Like we just got to be better than that. I will say one more thing about the game. Russell Wilson, man, I mean, he's been called just a magician out there because he does these crazy roll out right, see a guy run back 10 yards, go around him, and then get the first down. But I will say that it's starting to harm us more than it is help us. Like, I understand he's trying to just do the best he can when the pocket collapses to get out of there and get a first down. I get that, and I praise that. But I'm also like, dude, the Broncos were, like, containing you. Like, literally, they had people spying him and people coming around the edges. They were trying to contain him the best they could, and he kept running, doing what he normally does, and it's running him in sacks. So I feel like that has to be somewhat of like a game, like in-game adjustment. That, I mean, unfortunately, maybe if it's 2nd and 12 and you see a guy but you got to roll out, I mean, maybe you got to throw it out. Maybe you just got to throw it out of bounds and just try to get it on 3rd, because taking these sacks is not helping us. Like I said, we're just getting further and further. So Shaquem Griffin, I mean, awesome that he was out there and got the start. I mean, that's just, like I said last week, just a crazy road to making it to the NFL and starting your first game. I will say, though, I didn't think he looked that good. I think he was still flying around. I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily his fault. He probably needs to get more continuity with the defense. Him and Trey Flowers specifically, actually, they both got the starts. But on that right side, it just felt like the Broncos were trying to exploit that the whole game. I mean, they kept running like slants and they kept running screen passes and flats. I mean, it seemed like out in the flats right there was some miscommunication with those two, and they just weren't making tackles and coming up fast enough. And that is, at least in my opinion, a pretty big worry, because the Chicago Bears, if you just played the Packers on Sunday night, and the first half, that's all they did. They were throwing it short, getting it out quick into the flats, and I mean, they looked really good, especially the first half. But that makes me worried, because that's essentially what tore us up this game. That Phillip Lindsay, I mean, he torched us everything in the flats. So we'll see. That's something that needs to be corrected. Will Disley, wow, damn, I didn't even think that he was going to start. I didn't think that he was going to get that many snaps. Obviously, we have Ed Dixon out, but wow, Will Disley looked really good. I don't know if they were trying to like fly him under the radar to hide him, so that this game they could just exploit him, but they did, and he looked really good. So he's exciting to watch. To be honest, we'll see how the rest of the season goes, but the fact that he's such a good blocker too, I mean, that's kind of the role they wanted for Ed Dixon. So we'll have to see how good Ed Dixon is when he comes back, because that's someone that potentially could end up getting cut, and that would be another rookie that ends up taking a starting job. So rookie class so far has made quite a bit of contributions. Let's see, going into the second quarter, Janikowski's kicks. Okay, so I don't know what the deal is, but after Hauschka, we just can't find a kicker. We just can't do it. I mean, Blair Walsh, obviously, train wreck, but now Janikowski, I was pretty excited about, because we cut Jason Myers to keep Janikowski, and Janikowski obviously has been in this league for a lot of years, and he's been an awesome kicker. And I just, what? So he misses the 53-yarder, and I'm like, okay, that's a pretty far kick, and he's frustrated. But then I'm like, great, or whatever, 50-something, I can't remember what it was. And then they get a re-kick, and he misses it again. Like, dude, twice? No, can't happen. And then we lose the game by 3, so I'm not blaming it on that. But that can't happen. Oh, another missed opportunity in the game. Obviously, the field goal shouldn't be the reason the Seahawks lost. There's plenty of other opportunities in the game. But one thing is, Pete Carroll on the challenge, I mean, in the first, if you remember the game, the first quarter, Jerron Reed got a strip sack, or a strip fumble, and I think it was the third offensive possession by the Broncos. So he gets a strip fumble, and Pete Carroll, they're showing the replay, and of course, in game I didn't know if it was a fumble or not. But I see the replay, and I'm like, well, damn, challenge it. Isn't there somebody in his ear telling him to challenge that? So then I'm looking, and then they snap it, and so then they go to the replay, and Pete Carroll's mad because Pete Carroll didn't throw because they didn't give him the challenge. But it's like, dude, have the challenge flag out. like or scream challenge or something. I mean, come on, dude, get it out. Stuck in your pocket. That cost us. I mean, we would have got the ball back instantly. We would have literally just had all the momentum from the Earl Thomas touchdown, and then right after that, we would have had that fumble. And if they would have overturned that and we would have got that, I mean, I think that's a game changer because we had just scored a touchdown and now we're back in Broncos territory again with the ball. So I think that was a big missed opportunity. Bradley McDougald. Whoa. Yeah, he was balling. He was flying around. He looked awesome, to be honest. Like, I'm so excited that we got him at that contract. Like, that contract, in my opinion, is a steal. Like, just the simple fact that last year he had the versatility to start at both strong safety and free safety. Obviously for Cam and Earl when they were injured, but it's like now he comes in and starts at strong safety when the whole season, like, he looked solid. I mean, he looked phenomenal out there, and I'm pumped. I mean, he had 2 picks. That's an awesome start. And he was flying around making plays. McDougald looks like the future for sure at strong safety. And as much as I miss Cam, damn, McDougald is solid. He looks a lot better in coverage. Brandon Marshall is another one. Brandon Marshall looked actually really good. Obviously, he's had a couple down years now, so I thought he looked solid. I mean, we're going to need to go to him a lot more. He's really... I mean, we have Doug Baldwin, who's only 5'10". Obviously, Doug Baldwin went out with injury. He's supposed to be out. I don't know. They haven't announced it yet, but I'm going to guess at least 6 to 8 weeks. So that's a brutal hit. But, I mean, Doug Baldwin is pretty short receiver. And then you got Tyler Lockett also is a short receiver. So, I mean, Brandon Marshall, I think 6'3" or 6'4". It's like he's huge. So it's good to have a big body guy to go to. And he looked good. I mean, they were hyped on him early in the season. But he got a touchdown, and he looked good. So obviously he's going to have to be incorporated a lot more now that Doug Baldwin went down. And then let's get into Tyler Lockett. So yeah, obviously last week I talked about I think his contract is just insane, and I'm going to stand by that, to be honest. But I do think he had a good start to the season. I think he ended up finishing with like 5 or 6 receptions. He had that 50-yard touchdown, which was a great route. So yeah, I think a great start to the season, and I hope that he proves me wrong and he earns this contract. But yeah, good start. Michael Dixon is also another one. I thought he was going to be solid, just as good as he was in college, as good as he was in the preseason. I mean, he beat out John Ryan by a long shot. So what, he had 6 punts, averaged 59 yards, and 4 were inside the 20. I mean, he's legit. He's gonna come onto the scene real quick. I think that he potentially could be one of the best punters in the league. I mean, he's solid. So that's really exciting, especially this year when I think our defense is going to struggle a little more than normal years. But one thing I do want to say is I actually expected our defense, just based off of the preseason, what I saw, which obviously preseason doesn't mean anything, but I did expect our defense to kind of struggle getting turnovers, but it was actually the opposite. It seemed like, I mean, we had, 3 interceptions, and we could have had a fumble. I think we did a great job of getting turnovers. I think the bad thing is we didn't do a good enough job of getting pressure on Keenum, and I think that those passes in the flats, they just drove all the way down the field on us. I don't know. I just had a weird feeling watching the game. Like, I was just like, man, this is just forever. It's like we can't get any stops. It's like they just kept going down the field. So, I don't know. Like, I mean, I understand we're young and we got a lot of rookies, and this is kind of a new look Seahawks, but I think we need to get a lot better on D. I think the turnovers is great, but I think that we need to make more stops and we need to make some adjustments, because before that Chicago Bears game, we need to be making sure that in the flats they're not just getting 5 to 8 yards every play or more. So to get into a little bit of the next season, like kind of what we're looking like with salary cap stuff, I think per spot track we have like approximately around 60 million available in cap space for next season, which is a pretty good amount. And I think if we cut Ed Dixon, which I don't want to get ahead of myself, I haven't even seen him play yet, but Will Disley did look good, I think that we'll get like an extra almost 3 million. But So Earl Thomas, like I said, I feel like I'd be open to extending him for the right price. I think it just, to me, there's a weird feeling I have that the Seahawks don't want to extend Earl because they kind of want to let him move on and go with a younger look Seahawks. So, and then KJ Wright's a really interesting one. I actually think KJ Wright makes a big difference, and I think we'll see when he comes back and plays. But I think he's out this next week, so I hope Shaquem Griffin and Trey Flowers can get it together and fix those communication issues, and even Earl. I guess all of them. I hope the communication's a little better. I think a whole week of practice now and making some adjustments will help. But yeah, KJ Wright's an interesting one. I actually think I kind of hope we re-sign KJ, but with Shaquem already starting, that tells me they're pretty high on him. So I don't know. Maybe they'd be willing to let KJ walk. I mean, Shaquem still has a ton of upside and has a ton of time to work on his game and get better. So, I mean, who am I to say Shaquem could beat him out for the spot by the time it comes around next year? So we'll see what happens with KJ. Some other people to keep in mind is Justin Coleman is going to need a new contract next season. I think he's a solid slot corner. I think he's solid. I think we need to re-sign him for sure. I don't know what the market's going to look like. I'd guess we re-sign him somewhere between like 6 to 9 million. And then Frank Clark, I've been saying it. I think he had a sack this game. I think we need to re-sign him. I think that he's one of the few guys. I mean, if he has a terrible down season this year, then I understand waiting, and I guess that was the right call. But I think the market is going to go up by the time next season comes, and I think people are going to get re-upped again. And I don't know. It sucks not being ahead of it and having to overpay somebody now. So I hope that we can get Frank Clark somewhere between 12 to 16 million. I would love for the lower side of that. And then Dion Jordan's going to be an interesting one. He had a few snaps, and he looks like he got a couple QB hurries. He looked good. I think they were bringing him back from injury, so we'll see how he does. But his market's going to be really interesting. So we'll see, because he hasn't stayed healthy long enough to really like attribute a full season of production. So we'll see if he can stay healthy and what he can do. And then obviously we need to re-up Bobby Wagner and Russell Wilson. They're not free agents till 2020, but the earlier the better, because the markets are just going to go up and up and up and up. So Russell, I'm a little nervous for. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be over 30 million, so we'll see what happens. But overall, yeah, that's kind of my takes on the first game. Next game against the Bears, we're going to have to bring it. They looked good. I will say our run defense actually looked pretty solid. It was just when those short passes got thrown out into the flats, we struggled to react in time. And then obviously there was some communication issues, it seemed like, on deep passes that were caught. But our run D looked pretty good. So I think our run D will be able to stuff the Bears pretty solid. But they do all those quick throws into the flats and slants and stuff and screens. So we need to make some adjustments, and we need to be ready for it. I will say optimistically that our record on Monday Night Football with Pete Carroll is really solid. So I don't even hope. We need the win. We need the win against the Bears. We need to stay in if we want to stay in playoff contention. Guys, so one more thing I want to do. I'm going to do this every week to end the video. It's going to be called Tanner's Picks, and I'm going to pick one lock of the week, which I feel has the greatest chance of covering the spread for those bettors out there, and then also one upset of the week. So this week, my lock of the week is the San Diego Chargers to cover 7.5 points at Buffalo Bills, and my upset of the week is the Seattle Seahawks, baby. Plus 3.5 at Bears. I think they're going to get the dub. I think they're going to get it done. Let's go. Go Hawks.